Okay guys, welcome to the channel. As I promised in the title, I want to give you guys the most comprehensive video about this BMW E90 water pump and thermostat assembly. As you can see, I got one here disassembled, just as a little bit of a preview. Some other parts, all the tools, just kind of as a preview of what's to come in the video. I'm going to try to keep it as brief as I can, but I do want to make sure that this video is chock full of information for you guys about this problem that seems to be plaguing these E90 body style and year range cars, and a few others as well. So this one's a little beat up. It has 170,000 miles on it, and so it's requiring some help at this point. All right, so let's get right into it. Try to get that opened up. There we go, that's what I was looking for. So that right there is your low coolant warning, okay? So if you have a leak, you're gonna be looking at that one. All right, let's go back. I wanna show you guys what exactly was coming up here for this customer. And I had it found. It's right here somewhere. Okay, this one right here. Okay, the red temperature warning light. Okay, at first he got a yellow one, then he got a red one a few seconds later. Okay, now let me switch screens here. I don't have fancy video editing software yet. I'm just doing this to help you guys out, so excuse the iPhone shaky video and bad lighting and all that good stuff yet. I'm not sponsored or anything like that. I'm just here to help you guys out. And just so you know, you're not taking advice from a backyard mechanic. You're taking advice from a front yard mechanic. I'm in my own garage here at home, and I do little stuff on the side for customers. All right, BMW, Mercedes, and I'm gonna keep making these videos as long as people like them, and trying to help you guys out. So here's a list of the fault codes. I'll try to hold it real still so you guys can see. Okay, and then I'll kind of zoom in on this side, and then work my way over here. So I think I found the source of that one. Those two, I know that's the diagnostic module tank leakage. That's like, consider that like your evap system. Mixture control, I think we all know what that is. There's some sort of an issue with the fuel and air ratio, right? Could be related to this power management fault that we have here. This is not a scan tool, by the way, guys. This is just my tablet. I was able to email myself the pictures off the tablet. I'm sorry, off the scan tool. Anyway, electric coolant pump power reduced operation. You got to use the punctuation here. Electric coolant pump. There's a comma there, so you got to pause, right? Electric coolant pump power reduced operation. So the engine is now on a reduced power operation due to the electric coolant pump having a fault. And then BSD says the message is from that network, from the BSD, is saying electric coolant pump missing. Okay, and then DME also has a problem with the MAP thermostat mechanism. Okay, thing is, if you don't have coolant circulation, the thermostat's not really going to be able to do its job efficiently, is it? And the temperature sensors around on the engine are not going to get the correct readings, right? So I just wanted to show you guys that. He got a yellow temperature light, and then he got a red temperature light. So let's get right to it. All right, I want to show you guys more of what I have going on here. Based on those fault codes, I figured, all right, it's going to be that water pump and thermostat. And so there's the new one sitting there, and I'll turn it around, give you guys a view, kind of what it looks like. Let me not scratch up his engine cover. I mean, it's old and kind of beat up, but still, gotta respect the customer's vehicle, right? We're trying to fix it up together here. So, all right. So that's what it looks like from the back end. And then there is your wire connector, okay? Actually, this is the front. So this would be the front of the car. Okay, this would be up against the engine. So these are your 3 bolts here, okay, to remove it, which here they are in this little package right here. These are aluminum. They are one-time use. Okay, and I want to try to get you guys the part number as well. There's that part number. And then I also have the part number for the water pump. This comes in an anti-static bag, obviously to protect the electronics. There's sensitive electronics in there. You don't want to get static discharge. And then this is for the thermostat. All right, I like using the OE parts, and I'll tell you what. This is an updated pump over that one. If you buy this pump aftermarket and you think you're getting BMW pump, you are, but you're getting the old stock, okay? There's a reason that there's an updated number. There are changes made inside this pump, all right? Now, I'm not gonna go into all the specifics of the details of that, but I will tell you it does have to do with this electronic control system. I tore this one apart like an animal just so I can show you guys what's inside of it, but there you go. So if you think that can't fail when it gets hot and then run when you bench test it off the car, you are sadly mistaken, because that's what's going on with this one. I will tell you guys another thing: use the right coolant, okay? Because that's just gross, all right? That's terrible. So, you know, you get what you pay for. When you pay someone very little to work on your car, like one of these types of cars, you know, you get what you pay for. You know, you take it to Joe Schmo's shop, they put the wrong coolant in it, they don't know how to bleed it properly. There's things like that that happen. So it's best to, if you don't know how to do it yourself, make sure you take it somewhere and pay the man accordingly, all right? So this customer, he's kind of tight on dough right now, and I'm trying to help him out. He's a good guy. So what we're doing is we're gonna use this G48 coolant and distilled water. Okay, always distilled water. If you go to Walmart and they say they're out, go to the baby aisle. All right, that's a good tip. And then I'll put a little bit of water wetter in it. I'm only gonna put half the bottle in there. This breaks the surface tension of the water a little bit and allows it not to have little nooks and crannies where there's bubbles causing hot spots. And supposedly this will reduce the cylinder head temperature by a little bit, and also improves heat transfer, all right? So give it a shot. I've used that stuff before on a motorcycle that was an old one. It was overheating a little bit, and that cured it. So I kind of believe in that stuff, all right? Not too much. I'm just gonna go with probably half the dosage that they recommend to not change the coolant formulation too much, and then bleed it properly. All right, now before we go too far into this part of it, I wanna say there are some tests you can do. There are some fuses on the vehicle. I'm gonna go ahead and show those to you now, and then we'll continue on about this pump and how to remove it, and how I arrived at the place I'm at now. Two other things I found wrong with this car was that the distribution block from the positive terminal is damaged, and I'll show that to you in the trunk right now. Inside here, there are fuses that go to these wire connectors. Let me take this out of the plastic real quick. Help you guys out with a little bit of a better view. But you can see those connectors there, okay? Depending on what options are on the car, each one of those is fused, and it then connects to that positive tab there by just a flat piece of metal inside. The one in the car is damaged and the cover's all gone because somebody did some less than nice work installing a sound system. So we're gonna go ahead and replace that, and hopefully that'll help with the battery voltage code. And then I also realized that he's got a valve cover leak on the passenger side that has damaged the motor mount. We can't do the valve cover at this time due to time and money constraints. So we're gonna go ahead and change out this motor mount because I'll show you under there. The motor mount is actually, the bracket that comes off the engine is actually sitting flat down on top of this. So this that motor mount's definitely failed. And the reason that applies to this video is that the thermostat wiring, going the wrong way there, okay, this is up and this is forward. So when this is inside the car, that wiring right there, that connector, was pushed up against the subframe, okay, and it actually damaged the wire, so I got to repair that too. But let's go on to the testing. All right, if you need to pause it and take a break, come back, do it now. And then we'll continue, but I'm gonna keep going with some details here, so it might be a little bit of a lengthy video, but I want to make sure you guys get as much information on this as possible. So they say that this wire here, the one that I'm on, testing with the test light there, it's kind of, I'm showing you guys way too high up. Yeah, I don't really have a lot of room. I'm like really tight to the garage door here, so I'm trying to do the best I can. But I have my test light right here connected to ground. You can see that right there. And then I have the test light plugged in to that first terminal. All right, and you can see, if I can move that wire, you can see the fuses there. Okay, those little black boxes. Okay, those are sort of like, consider them fusible links, if anything. Okay, and you can see my test light's lit. So that's one way to test that and make sure that the voltage is actually getting through. Sometimes you could have a bad connector. You could have this fuse blow sort of halfway where it's just creating resistance in there, okay? This is in your battery tray area and the back passenger of the car, all right? So let me take this off of here and shut this light down. Now let's move on to the next spot. Okay, bear with me with the shaky video and stuff. Like I said, I'm not some sponsored guy. I'm just doing this to try to help you guys out. Sorry about that, guys. No coordination today. All right, here we go. All right. I do have some lights though. So I'm connecting the ground right here. Just to, you know, anywhere right here. You should have a ground. And then what I'll do is, a lot of guys remove that whole fuse block. I'll use the test light to point at it, but that whole block of fuses right there, they remove that. But through these slots right here, you can access the tabs on the fuse, like this one right here. Okay, and you can test, and you can see that my test light's lit, and I'll test on the other side, right? So you test all these fuses, because I'm not sure which one of these it is, to be honest with you. There was a video where the guy discussed it and he said which one it was, but I just tested them all and they all lit, and same thing here. So both sides of the fuses, this side and that side, okay, on all of those fuses in there. There's a little tab you can pull back. I don't know if I could get you guys a view of it, but it's on the far side of it. Let's see, there's a lot of wiring here, but just be careful with it. You'll be all right. It's pretty tough. So right down there, you can see that little tab. You can pull that up, and if you can do that, you can actually pull that thing up towards you quite a bit and really get in there to see what you're doing. But it really doesn't take that much effort. You can clearly see, right, using the phone and that light, that I have some access to it, right? And I could just get my test light down in there and touch each one of those terminals, left of the fuse and then right of the fuse, and make sure that they have power going across them, okay? But now, if you want to skip all that, okay, because this thing's missing a lot of hardware up here on the cowl, you have to remove this cover, and then down underneath this cowl, this whole thing here, okay, underneath this is this cover, and it faces this way. So you've got a little bit of a tab lock here, a tab lock here, and you got two sliding locks here, one there and one at the back, okay? You got to open all that up and finagle this thing out of here. You can take it in and out from the side over here if you just loosen up and lift this thing up. It was already loose enough for me that I could do that. I am going to secure this properly going back together. And being that rainwater ends up over here, you want to make sure this is all put back together, right? All this rubber and stuff, you want to make sure this goes underneath and into that slot the way it's supposed to, all right? So that way you don't get water intrusion into your modules, because there's already a problem with that with these cars, and they end up with corrosion on the pins, and this is where your engine computer is at too, all right, your DME. So make sure that that goes back together properly, all right? I want to, while we're standing up and not under the car, I want to show you guys something about the bleed procedure. I use a scan tool, but not everybody will have a scan tool. That's a Autel Maxi Scan, an old, like, smaller one, not the large one. And I have all the options on there to test the engine fan and test the coolant pump at like 5% or 95% or 50%, something like that. And I got really no circulation, so I was already thinking it was a water pump, and then codes will tell me, you know, and then I also saw an overheat with the freeze frame. But if you don't have that scan tool, there's a bunch of people online with videos that show you this bleed procedure. I'll show you that real quick, and then I'll show you a way to that you might be able to skip testing the fuses in there and the fuse in the trunk, okay? If you are already suspecting a water pump. So what you do is you get in the car, you do not step on the brake pedal, you just touch the button once. Once you got everything lit up on the dashboard, all your lights come on, you turn your temperature settings to max, both temperature settings all the way to max. You turn the fan down to its minimum setting. It's still on, but it's at its minimum setting, okay? So full temp, minimum setting on the fan. And I saw the guy who did this make sure all three of these lights over here to the side for the directional controls for the air coming out of your dash or floor or defog, all those lights are off, all right? Then at that point, he pushes on the gas pedal all the way down till it clicks for about 12 seconds, and then that will start to run the bleed procedure, okay? Now when you run that bleed procedure, right over here, you will see at about the 12, like 1 o'clock position, you'll see a nice steady stream of coolant coming out of here once the system's primed up, all right? And he's got a nice brass bleeder screw here, which is good to have because they like to break these real easy. When you're filling, that should be completely removed, and you should fill until you get coolant coming out of there, then put that in lightly. And when you're running the bleed procedure, I like to leave it open a little bit and then close it. And that way I get a lot of it out that way, and then I can watch it right here, the stream coming out. And it should be real nice and steady, all right? So just so you guys know that, that's the bleed procedure. You can do it with the scan tool as well. This is your connector for your fan, which runs all the way over to that side. I just put it over here out of the way because I obviously pulled the fan and shroud assembly out. You'll have to take out a couple screws, one of them right here on the radiator. Do not over tighten that one. You can break the ear off the radiator right there, and you'll be replacing the radiator. And then down below on the transmission cooler, that is also having one screw that connects it to the shroud, all right? So I just figured I'll tell you guys about that now while we're up here. We covered those fuses there, we covered the fuses in the back, and the manual bleed procedure. Now I'm gonna go ahead and take you guys underneath. Let me just go ahead and grab the test light. And since I told you guys about those two little screws, I'll show them to you. Here they are. I use a T25, I believe, from this little kit right here, that one right there, to take these two out. And here's the other one. They're both the same. All right, and I'll go over the rest of this hardware with you guys here in a second. Let's just get underneath and take a look. Actually, physically removing the water pump and thermostat is not that hard. I left the thermostat in there. I unbolted it from the water pump and kind of disconnected the hoses and stuff, and left the thermostat kind of pushed over to the side. Here's your sway bar, by the way. I left the thermostat pushed over to the side up in here, and I took the water pump out through the front. So I came out this way with it. I just moved that large coolant hose there out of the way, trying to keep good lighting for you guys too. So this large one back out of the way, like so, and I was able to finagle that pump out of there. All right, and then the thermostat just pretty much fell out of my hands right here. There's more than one way to skin a cat on this thing. It's not that hard. Once you drop this this sway bar down, it's 4 13mm nuts. Easiest thing in the world. Just don't let it punch you in the teeth on its way down. It's kind of beefy. It'll hurt. And then this 1 10mm nut right here. I'll show you guys that up there in the hardware, but that's on a rubber bushing, so you're gonna want to hold it right here with something. On the bottom, you want to hold it with like a channel locks or a maybe a big adjustable wrench, and then loosen that. Same thing, tightening, because you can actually twist that bushing and tear it. All right, and you don't want that. Also, that's a lock nut. So if you don't have a new metal lock nut to replace that with, I would put just a little dab of blue Loctite. Clean it first with a little brake clean and put a dab of blue Loctite on there. That'll help that stay in place. All right. So the hoses that I disconnected, this big one here, let me get the light back on it. I know I skipped over the electrical for right now, but I'll get back there in just a sec. I want to show you guys this stuff. So I put rags in there. Make sure to take them out, obviously. I didn't want any debris or anything falling in there, but I am going to flush the system anyway. So I get my little pick tool and I hook them in right here at the peak, and then I pull up on it until the clip has reached its released position, which is here. So you see the little clip on the side there. It comes up to here, and then when you're done, once it's removed, you know, you got to wiggle it a little up and down and left and right, and it'll come off. But if you're having difficulty, use the heat gun and just warm it up a little bit, because the plastic is a little more forgiving when it's warm. And then as soon as it's off, I like to put the clip back in place so I don't lose it. And then if at all possible, replace the O-ring that's inside of it. I'll try to show that to you guys. Hopefully I don't get a gush of coolant coming out right here. But shouldn't be much left in there, but you can see how flat that O-ring is and how dirty that is inside. All right, I wanted to change this lower hose since I took it off, but to tell you the truth, it's so stuck on the radiator. I don't want to break the radiator. The nipple of the radiator, once it gets past the O-ring, they tend to flare out and get a little bit bigger, especially when it's been overheated. And so when you try to remove that hose, you're gonna end up snapping that spout, that barb off the radiator, or putting it back on. You won't even be able to get it back on with a new O-ring. I've had that problem before too on an X5 that was overheated. So just make sure you are careful and lubricate the O-rings with something suitable for coolant. Don't use engine oil, all right? And lubricate both the O-ring and the spout, and then it'll slide right on. The clip will just go click right into place. Be the easiest thing you've ever done. All right, and let's see here. This Tesla is giving me grief. All right, so the wiring normally plugs in up here towards the front, all right, but I have it pushed towards the back over here. I threw it over the control arm for the simple reason that I didn't want to get coolant in it when I started disconnecting the lines. The ground is just a loop, okay, and it attaches right there. There's a bolt that goes through here. It's an aluminum bolt. I'll show it to you guys up there. I got it new. All right, I think the one that was in there was too long, and that's probably why the ground loop was dirty, and that could be contributing to the problem, or contributing to spikes through the electronics on the pump, and taking out the electronics in the pump. All right, another thing that I found is like I was saying earlier about the failed motor mount. I could show that to you guys right now. Let me get a little more lined up on this creeper here. Okay. No lift in my garage. I'm not all sponsored up yet, guys. But you can see how that bracket coming off the engine, see that blue tip screw there? That means it's an aluminum screw, is a one-time use. I have seen a car where it broke all those, and the engine was sitting on top of the power steering rack like a 250-pound hacksaw. Okay? So don't do that. Don't think, I can get away with it this one time. You will not. It's a guarantee. You will not get away with that. Just replace the bolts. They're cheap, okay? They're cheap insurance that the job's done right. And then there's a torque spec. There's an adjoining torque, which is like your initial clamping torque, which is usually very low, and then an angle specification. So you're gonna go on the water pump bolts, for example, you're gonna go, I believe it's like 8 or 9 Newton meters, and then you're gonna go about 90 degrees of rotation. So make sure you double check that specification. I'm just coming off the top of my head with that. I'm probably close, but don't quote me on that. And remember, this video is for your entertainment purposes only. If you mess your car up or whatever, that's on you, okay? I'm trying to help you guys out, but don't blame me if you mess it up, all right? So this motor mount's being replaced because, believe it or not, that collapsing has caused the thermostat wiring to rub up on top of that plate right there on the subframe, okay? It rubs right on top of there, and it actually rubbed through the wiring. So that's why that motor mount's being replaced right now too, because I can't see putting this back together and then having that causing problems as well. So to show you guys the electrical test real quick and also explain a little bit about the bench test, I'm just going to go ahead and connect the ground of my test light right here. And then I'm gonna go back over here to the connector, and I want to show you guys that I'm just gonna go just lightly touch pin 1, and you can see clearly that I've got 12 volts there. I am just lightly touching it. I'm not shoving this test light down inside of the pins, because you'll spread the pins and then you will have a high resistance connection. You won't be able to get electricity across it well into the pump. And remember, it's a heavy load, so it's gonna need proper current flow. All right. So, and then the other thing I did earlier was I took my ohm meter and I ohmed pin 4 here to the ground loop, just to make sure that everything was okay in here, it wasn't corroded or anything like that. And it's good. Got like 0.3 of an ohm, so that's not too bad. And then also just check the seals and stuff back here. You know, make sure that like water corrosion is not getting in there. It doesn't look burnt. To run the bench test, this is the best thing for you to know right here. To bench test your water pump, you got the curved side and you got your flat side. Curved side you just saw was positive, right? So positive 12 volts on pin 1. Your negative is going to be on your pin 4. Okay. Pin 3 you will not use. Okay. So pin 3 is that lavender colored one right there. All right. So let's number them from right to left. So the opposite of how you would read. Okay. So the red one is number 1. That's going to be power. Number 2, you jump those 2 pins together on the pump, that one and that one. Okay. And when you do that, there'll be about a 3 to 10 millisecond delay, and then the pump should start spinning. Okay, if you have a good pump. But that doesn't mean your pump is good, and I'll explain, because my pump still rotated, but it was slow, and it didn't seem like it had any power. Don't stick your finger in the impeller. All right, but there you go. So I'll go over this one more time on the pump over there, but 1 and 2, that's power. You jump them together, and that's going full speed. If you pulse that one, number 2, it actually slows it down. Okay, I don't really advise doing that. You don't want to damage the electronics. Just jump it out, give it a few seconds, and it should start spinning. All right, and then your ground right there. Okay, make sure it's all nice and clean going back together. Don't just slam it back together. And then I'll also show that wiring damage that I saw in this thing. It's like right at the end too. So I got new pins. I'm gonna go ahead and just cut this back a little bit and try to repin this thing to make it work properly and not corrode that wiring, and take care of it for the customer the right way. All right. The water pump bolts themselves, I'm going to show you guys a little short extension deal that you're going to need to do. Let me get this out of here and reposition the light a little bit for you guys too. Sorry for the shaky video. I'm under a car and I don't have a lift, so doing the best I can. But okay, 3 bolts. 1 here, not this one. That one's going to feel super easy when that water pump is in here. You're gonna be like, oh yeah, it's right here. No, that's your AC compressor bolt. You take that out and you're not gonna have the right parts for the job. And like I said, aluminum bolt cannot be reused, okay? And definitely don't put a steel bolt in here, because you'll actually corrode the threads, not the bolt, okay? Those 2 bolts on the bottom, obviously, easy peasy, right? But the one on the top, you need to use a short extension, a wobble, and then a longer extension, and you can bring it down out this way, and you could be able to get to it to loosen it up over here. All right, something like that. Okay, or I mean, you could try to get creative with something else, but just be careful. You know, this radiator's kind of beat up already, but you know, be careful, because you tear into one of these tubes and you'll have a coolant leak when you go back together. That's the last thing you want to do, right? Also, that ground loop, I think I might have mentioned this already, but it goes in there, and I will show you guys the actual bolt for that as well. All right, that holds an AC line, comes off the AC compressor right there. Okay, hopefully you guys can see that. I can't tell if you can or not, but that's where the ground loop connects. So you're gonna want to make sure that the thread is clean and all. All right, so now let's go up here. I probably should have showed you guys in the beginning, but if you're thinking about tackling this job, you're probably gonna watch this whole video before you do it. I hope you are. I hope you're sticking with it. I know it's long. I wanted to keep it short, but I want you guys to get all the info you need. Okay, Excuse me. So like I said, these two are for the fan shroud and the heat exchanger, which I didn't show you. So I'm gonna go right back under there where I just came from to show you where that one came from real fast. And it's right there. All right, so it's right on the bottom of that heat exchanger for the transmission. Goes into the fan shroud. Make sure the clips on the bottom of the fan shroud go back in place. All right, and be careful with the spouts. Remember, heat them up. Be careful with this line too. It's plastic, so don't pull and grab on that. All right, just take the shields down, the black shields. Take the sway bar down, nice and easy. Don't get punched in the face by it. Take this line out of place, and then go ahead and start taking off your coolant lines, your clamps. I want to show you guys as well while I'm under here. Might as well. There is that coolant line there. That's just a hose clamp. And then there's two with clips. There's a small one, and then the large one, that's your lower radiator hose. So make sure, you know, if you can get new O-rings, get new O-rings from like O'Reilly's or somewhere, and go ahead and put it back together like that, and lubricate it with, I would get the specific O-ring lubricant. That's what I use. It's by Parker. All right, and it's meant for O-rings. It works really well. It's kind of tacky, and things go together real nice with that stuff. I don't want to step on my test light and my creeper's under there because I don't want it to turn into a skateboard. All right, another thing, when you take your fan off, make sure you spin it. Make sure it's not making any noise. Grab it, try to wiggle it, make sure the bearing is still good, right? That screw hole is where the one on top goes in, and then the one on the bottom goes in right there. Okay, and then you see the little tab, like I was saying, to get it lined up, okay? This is the screw that came out of that ground loop. They looked it up by VIN, and this one seems to be incorrect. So you can see that that one's shorter. That might explain why that ground loop is so dirty and why this thing has failed. It may have been having an intermittent ground. All right, so something to check too. All right, always go by the last 7 of the VIN, and that way they can get this stuff for you by part number. Don't just go throwing whatever you want in there, because you'll end up with problems. So these are the 3 aluminum bolts that held the pump on. This is the one that held that AC line bracket and the ground loop in place. These 2 little guys right here hold the thermostat to the water pump. I'll show you guys where those go. All this was just for the plastic shrouds. Make sure and put the shrouds back in place, guys. Get these little clips that go on the subframe back in there, and then screw the plastic into the bottom of it the way it's supposed to, so the plastic's not flapping underneath the car on the freeway. That's really shoddy work, you know. So just make sure you guys do that right. Be careful about that. It's for more than just protecting stuff under there. It's also for ducting the air properly out of the car. These 4 are for your sway bar bushings, and then these are for this one nut right here. I'm sorry, is for your power steering line underneath there that I showed you, and it's a locking type nut, so you can put this on something metal and smack it a little bit right there with a punch, just a little bit, and that'll make it have its grab again. But I mean, the best thing to do is to just replace it with a new one, or put a dab of Loctite. Clean it up, clean up the threads. Always clean your threads, guys. That's a proper job. And then go back together with it. Remember what I said? Adjoining torque about 8 Newton meters, and then 90 degrees. Look up the specs. You can go on Mitchell, MITCHELL, DIY.com, and you can get all the specs you want for one car for like 20 bucks, and you can have access for like 30 days. So that's what I use, and I get all my torque specs and all that from there. And you'll be able to do it. All right. So that's a T25. This is a Harbor Freight little 1/4-inch drive star bit set. These, you got to have this stuff if you're going to work on these types of cars. And then also the E-Torx style ones. This is an E12. You're going to need that. And then this is an E8. There is a pipe that runs up underneath the car. That one's kind of difficult to see. You might think about replacing that. I did not show that to you guys. I'm going to go back real quick, make sure I show that to you guys too. Sorry about being all over the place, guys. I just want to make sure you get what you need. So it goes from that hose that I was showing you there. There's your AC compressor right there. And you can see it up in there. All right, there's a little black gasket there. It's tough to get to, you know, but if it's got a little seep around it, I would replace that. Or if it looks like it's cracking at all, I would highly recommend replacing that while you're in here, okay? But I'll tell you what, the second bolt up above that is gonna be tough to get. And I mean, you better be careful threading that back in there. You better make sure you get that in there straight. Don't over tighten it, don't break it, just be real careful, okay? You can do it with like wobble tip extensions and stuff like that, but I would really try to get the first few threads started by hand, especially on that top one. All right, it's kind of hard to get a shot of that one, but you can see where it goes. All right, comes down and it connects to this little hose here that connects to the water pump. All right, and I believe that's gonna be your outlet, all right, from your water pump. So I'll give you guys kind of a far shot of it. This is looking from the passenger side towards the driver's side, where the water pump and thermostat bolt up. All right. Okay. Going back up there for the tools. All right. So your E12, your E8. All right. And then I got a 1/4-inch ratchet. It's a nifty little ratchet I got from Harbor Freight. It is 1/4-inch drive on one side. It's flex head. And it's also got 3/8. It has, yes, it's Harbor Freight. Some people are already getting ready to give me the negative comments, but you know what? I got AC in the garage because I bought some Harbor Freight stuff, so I'm not out here in 96 degrees sweating. I set it at 78, and it's at 78. So, sockets. I got 13 millimeter, 10 millimeter. I got an 8, 7, and 6. Somebody mixed up some hose clamps on there, so more than likely we just need the 6. But I'm just trying to give you guys a rundown of the tools you're gonna need to do the job, right? So we got the T25, E8, E12, I believe this one was. Yes, that's E12. You guys probably can't see that, but 1/4-inch, 3/8, the sockets, 13, 10, 8, 7, 6. A long 1/4-inch extension. You don't really need this bit driver. I just kind of like it. It's smaller and easier to handle than that ratchet underneath there. Then I got I want to say it's probably like a 10-inch extension. And then this was the one I was saying for the upper bolt on the water pump. All right, this guy right here. All right, so you put the short extension, like about a 1-inch or 1.5 inch, and then you put the wobble on there, and then you put the long extension coming out. All right, and you're able to get that one out of there. Going back in, thread it in by hand, like I said before. Okay, little wrench like this is a 1/4-inch wrench. I just used this because one of the hose clamps was clocked in a real crappy way, and I couldn't really get to it easily. So I loosened it up with this first, and then I was able to get in there and rotate it so I could get it with the sockets. All right, a couple flathead screwdrivers, hose pick like this to help you break the bite. This one's a little big. Harbor Freight has a little straight 90-degree one, and then a simple straight one in a kit. That's a good kit. I've had that for a long time. This one was closer. This one was in this toolbox right here next to the car, and then the other toolbox is way over there. So I use that toolbox for the toys. This hook right here, this is a snap-on set someone gave me for Christmas, which was nice of them. I use this one to just hook the clips on the hoses and pull them up. All right, it works like a charm. Channel locks, and then I use this to help me with the electrical connector. This is Harbor Freight as well. Bent 90-degree pliers. This is all cheap stuff, easy to have, you know. Reinvest in your work. If you guys are doing side work out of your garage, it's good to just grab some tools real quick. I used the pry bar and the heat gun just to help me. I warmed up the hose connection a little bit, and then I rocked it side to side, and then I rocked it up and down, everywhere I could to help free it up while pulling on it. But then I had to warm it up and put the pry bar on it and just lightly push on one side and then the other, one side and then the other, and it came off. All right, so those are the tools that you're gonna want to have right there with you or under the car, and you hopefully are not gonna be getting out from under the car like 30 times to have to get what you need if you're doing this by yourself with no helper. And I got a couple little impacts right here. I got a 3/8 impact and a little hex bit driver impact. I got my Autel Maxi Scan with the Bluetooth dongle. That thing comes in pretty handy. Oh, and if you get yourself a Mophie charger with the jump start feature, this thing's awesome. Someone gave it to me as a gift, and it's got a 110 volt outlet. I'm not sponsored, but I should be for that. Also, it's got that wireless charging on it, so it's cool. But anyway, staying on topic for you guys, the water pump. Inside, it looks like a glitter factory exploded in here. There's a lot of metal in here, and I'll tell you why. This thing is super magnetic. I mean, obviously you guys can't tell how much force that's taken to pull that off of there, but it's a pretty good amount of force, all right? So if there's metal floating around in the cooling system, this thing is going to attract it, all right? They say that the bearing, all right? I want to show you guys that there's a seal here, but there's also like an indentation on this plastic piece here. So I feel like coolant is meant to go in here to some degree, all right? Also, because at the very back, there's an O-ring. That's an O-ring right there, all right? I don't know if you guys can make that out, but there is definitely an O-ring seal right there, okay? So, and that's gonna seal right here, okay? And then those connections, they connect, well, they used to connect right there. See that? And then there's this cap that I took off of the back as well. Kind of tore this thing apart like an animal because I just wanted to show you guys what was inside. All right, there's some sensitive electronics, so don't go touching the pins on your new one, okay? Don't go trying to bench test your new one because you can easily fry something inside. So don't do that, all right? Test your old one, like I told you guys, all right? Pin 1, 2, 3, and 4. I said I was gonna go over that one more time. I'm gonna go over here in the light and show you guys this. So pin 1, power. Pin 2, jump power across. That's gonna wake up your pump in 3 to 12 milliseconds. Pin 3 is not used. Pin 4 is your ground, all right? And that will get your pump spinning, okay? And that should give you max speed. So it's a phenolic impeller. Everyone says plastic. I try to color it just so I can make a little video of it running. You can't really see it, it spins too fast. And then there's a metal insert, so you gotta like really pry that sucker off of there. It's like a press fit. And then it's actually built pretty well. Most people are gonna say, oh man, plastic in there, but I think it's phenolic, which is a little bit tougher, more temperature resistant. So besides that, I wanna say use the right coolant, obviously, because take a look at that. That's terrible. If you guys want to show a customer that's, you know, arguing about the price of coolant, you know, that's a pretty good example right there. Or putting stop leak in. That stuff doesn't work, all right? That's just avoid a mechanic now, but pay him more later. That's what that stuff is. So your customers should all know that. All right, and so I'm pretty sure coolant is supposed to get in here because there's those 4 little holes too, all right? And I believe what happens is it cools the armature. And this is the armature, by the way, and it's supposed to make the electronics last longer. But when there's metal inside here, they say they don't even want you spinning this impeller by hand or dry. So when you get the water pump new, which there's the part number for this car, it's a 06 325i, I believe. So that's the part number for it. My autofocus isn't working that great, and that's the thermostat part number. There's the old thermostat. The new thermostat is in fact plastic, all right? So just so you guys know, they're not BSing you. And then there's the bolt kit. That's your 3 bolts that will bolt the water pump up to the block. All right, you must replace those. And then I got all the stuff for the motor mounts, like I showed you guys. The 3 for the bracket. It'll make it easier if I have to pull the bracket off to have them here already. And then these will bolt up the motor mount to the chassis, and then also the top nut on the motor mount, which I'll show you guys in a minute. And then this is the bolt for the ground loop. And you can see that's a lot shorter than the one I showed you guys earlier that I took out of there. So you want to make sure you get the right stuff, obviously, right? So there's the customer's new motor mount. You can clearly see there's supposed to be a nice gap between that, right, and the bracket that you were seeing, and this thing just collapsed flat down on top of there. So that's why the thermostat wiring connector was pushed up against the subframe in there, okay? So I have to fix that now. I can't put this thing back together like that. And then I got the new, this is what the fusible link plate, I guess we'll call it. That's where the positive connects. And then it just distributes it out for whatever options you have on the car. All right, and clips onto the battery like so. So this being the front of the car, this being the back of the car. And the wire we were testing was this one, I believe. All right, so you'd have to actually pop it out of there, or just go in from the back with the test light like I showed you guys earlier. All right, and then I could give you the part number for that as well, I believe. That's the part number for that, for this car. Just in case you guys want to try to look them up and get some more info. And then the motor mount, this is the passenger side motor mount on this car. All right, and distilled water always in your cooling system. Your car doesn't need Fiji or Voss or Smart Water, okay? It's not gonna make it any faster. Distilled water, no minerals or anything like that to help with, you know, corrosion and buildup happening. And then, you know, the proper coolant. This may not be the best stuff in the world. And this is actually 50-50 mix. We have some straight for it. And we're gonna go ahead and put the right mix of the right type of coolant at least in the car. We try to save a little money where we could for the customer, and then we're gonna throw a little bit of this in there just to help it out. All right, this is an additive that I used to use, and it really helps out. I had a street bike that used to overheat just a little bit, an old Ninja way back in the day, and I put this stuff in there and it really helped out a lot. So I'm gonna follow the directions, but I'm gonna put actually a little less than the directions say. Just a little help for it. All right. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope it was really informative. I hope you understand how to test to make sure that you have power down there at your water pump now. You understand the bleed procedure. You saw the fault codes that I had. And I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, I know it was kind of long, but if you enjoyed it and you want me to keep making videos, hopefully ones in the future will be a lot shorter. But I tend to like really go in on what I'm talking about. Oh, and I forgot one thing, flushing. I made this with a piece of just clear tubing, 3/4 inch, and I got a pump for my boat, a little bilge pump, and I'm gonna go ahead and connect that to it, drop that in a bucket of distilled water, push that up in the hose, and just flush the whole system through. All right, and I'll run the bleed procedure on it when I'm doing that, so then it can actually get all through the heater core and all that and flush all that old coolant and stuff out of there. All right, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Please like, subscribe, comment. If you were looking for detail, I know you're gonna like this video. I know you're gonna give me a thumbs up. If you weren't, if you were looking for a quick fix, this is probably not the channel for you, because I go in, man. I make sure I do a lot of research, and I want to make sure that you get what you need in one place. All right, so hopefully you like and subscribe, and I'll keep making you guys some videos and hooking you guys up with some details. Until next time, people, take care, be safe, wear a mask, don't drink and drive, and enjoy your BMWs.